From translation, NKJV New King James Version, this 150th day of the year, today we are reading passages, Esther 1-5, Esther chapter 1, verses 1 to 22. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus. This was the Ahasuerus who reigned over 127 provinces, from India to Ethiopia. In those days when King Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan the citadel, in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast for all his officials and servants, the powers of Persia and Media, the nobles, and the princes of the provinces being before him, when he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom, and the splendor of his excellent majesty for many days, 180 days in all. And when these days were completed, the king made a feast lasting 7 days for all the people who were present in Shushan the citadel, from the greatest to the least, in the court of the garden of the king's palace. There were white and blue linen curtains, fastened with cords of fine linen, and purple to silver rings and marble pillars, and the couches were of gold and silver on a mosaic pavement of alabaster, turquoise, and white marble. They served drinks in golden vessels, each vessel different from the other, with royal wine in abundance, according to the generosity of the king. In accordance with the law, the drinking was not compulsory, for so the king had ordered all the officials of his household to do as each man desired. Queen Vashti also held a feast for the women in the royal house, which belonged to King Ahasuerus. On the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, Biztha, Harbona, Bigtha, Abagtha, Zethar, and Carcas, 7 eunuchs who served in the presence of King Ahasuerus, to bring Queen Vashti before the king, wearing her royal crown, in order to show her beauty to the people and the officials, for she was beautiful to behold. But Queen Vashti refused to come at the king's command brought by his eunuchs. Therefore the king was furious, and his anger burned within him. Then the king said to the wise men who understood the times, for this was the king's manner toward all who knew law and justice, those closest to him: Karshena, Shethar, Admatha, Tarshish, Meres, Marsina, and Memucan, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, who had access to the king's presence, and who were ranked highest in the kingdom. According to law, what shall be done to Queen Vashti, because she did not obey the command of King Ahasuerus brought by the eunuchs? And Memucan answered in the presence of the king and the princes, Queen Vashti has wronged not only the king, but also all the princes, and all the people who are in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus. For the queen's behavior will become known to all women, so that they will despise their husbands in their eyes, when they report that King Ahasuerus commanded Queen Vashti to be brought in. But she did not come. This very day the Persian and Median women will say to all the king's officials, Thus shall the king do to all men who are pleased with him. If it please the king, let a royal decree go out from him, and let it be recorded in the laws of Persia and Media, so that it not be altered, that Vashti shall come no more before King Ahasuerus. And let the king give her royal position to another who is better than she. When the king's decree which he will make is proclaimed throughout all his empire, for it is great, all women will give honor to their husbands, both great and small. And the saying pleased the king and the princes, and the king did as Memucan proposed. He sent letters to all the king's provinces, to each province in its own script, and to each people in their own language, that every man should be master in his own house, and speak in the language of his own people. Esther chapter 2 verses 1 to 23. After these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus subsided, he remembered Vashti, what she had done, and what had been decreed against her. Then the king's servants who attended him said, Let beautiful young virgins be sought for the king, and let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather all the beautiful young virgins to Shushan the citadel, to the house of the women, under the authority of Hegai the king's eunuch, custodian of the women. And let their things for purification be given them. And let the young woman who pleases the king be queen instead of Vashti. This thing pleased the king, and he did so. In Shushan the citadel there was a certain Jew whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjaminite. Kish had been carried away from Jerusalem, with the captivity which had been carried away with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon had carried away. And he had brought up Hadassah, that is, Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother. The young woman was beautiful and lovely. And when her father and mother died, Mordecai took her as his own daughter. So it was, when the king's command and his decree were heard, and when many young women were gathered to Shushan the citadel, under the custody of Hegai, that Esther also was brought to the king's house, to the custody of Hegai the custodian of the women. Now the young woman pleased him, and she obtained his favor. So he readily gave her the things for purification with her appointed women, and he gave her the portions of her choice, and 7 chosen maidens from the king's house. And he moved her and her maids to the best place in the house of the women. Esther had not revealed her people or her family, for Mordecai had charged her not to tell. And Mordecai had instructed Esther to go into the king and what to do, and Esther had followed Mordecai's instructions, as when she was brought up by him. Now when the turn came for the young woman to go into the king, this was done. Anything she desired was given her to take with her from the house of the women to the king's house. In the evening she would go in, and in the morning she would return to the second house of the women, to the custody of Shashgaz, the king's eunuch who kept the concubines. She would not go in again to the king unless the king delighted in her, and she was summoned by name. When the young woman's turn came, the daughter of any one of the people of the land was brought in to the king in this manner. Whatever she desired was given her to take with her from the house of the women to the king's house. In the evening she went in, and in the morning she returned to the second house of the women, to the custody of Shashgaz, the king's eunuch who kept the concubines. Thus would the young woman go into the king as she pleased. When she went into the king, she demanded nothing but what Hegai the king's eunuch, the custodian of the women, suggested, and Esther obtained favor in the eyes of all who saw her. The king loved Esther more than all the other women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins. So he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. Then the king made a great feast, the feast of Esther, and made a holiday for the provinces, and he gave gifts according to the generosity of the king. When the virgins were gathered together the second time, Mordecai was sitting within the king's gate. But Esther had not revealed her kindred or her people, just as Mordecai had commanded her, for Esther obeyed Mordecai as she had when he was bringing her up. In those days, while Mordecai was sitting within the king's gate, two of the king's eunuchs, Bigthan and Teresh, who guarded the threshold, became angry and sought to lay hands on King Ahasuerus. So the matter was known to Mordecai, who then told Queen Esther in Mordecai's name, and Esther reported it to the king in Mordecai's name. And when the matter was investigated and found to be true, both were hanged on a gallows. And it was written in the book of the Chronicles, in the presence of the king. Esther chapter 3, verses 1 to 15. After these things, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, and advanced him, and set his seat above all the princes who were with him. And all the king's servants who were within the king's gate bowed and paid homage to Haman, for so the king had commanded concerning him. But Mordecai neither bowed nor paid homage. Then the king's servants who were within the king's gate said to Mordecai, "Why do you transgress the king's command?" Now it happened, when they spoke to him daily, and he would not listen to them, that they told Haman, to see whether Mordecai's words would stand. For Mordecai had told them that he was a Jew. When Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow or pay homage to him, he was filled with wrath. But he disdained to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had told him of the people of Mordecai. So Haman sought to destroy all the Jews who were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, the people of Mordecai. In the first month, which is the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast pur, that is, the lot, before Haman to determine day and month, and it fell on the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. Then Haman said to King Ahasuerus, "There is a certain people scattered and dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from all other peoples, nor do they keep the king's laws. Therefore it is not fitting for the king to let them remain. If it please the king, let a decree be written that they be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who do the work, to bring it into the king's treasuries." So the king took his signet ring from his hand, and gave it to Haman the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. And the king said to Haman, "The silver is given to you, the people also, to do with them as it seems good to you." Then the king's scribes were summoned on the 13th day of the first month, and all that Haman commanded was written to the king's satraps, to the governors who were over every province, to the officials of all the people, to every province in its own script, to every people in its own language, and to the Jews in their own script and language. And the letters were sent by couriers into all the king's provinces, to destroy, to kill, and to annihilate all the Jews, both young and old, little children and women, in one day, on the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, and to plunder their possessions. A copy of the written decree was to be issued as law in every province, being published to all peoples, that they should be ready for that day. The couriers went out, hastened by the king's command, and the decree was issued in Shushan the citadel. So the king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Shushan was in confusion. Esther chapter 4, verses 1 to 17. When Mordecai learned all that had been done, he tore his clothes and put on sackcloth and ashes, and went out into the midst of the city and wailed loudly and bitterly. He went as far as the front of the king's gate, for no one might enter the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. And in every province where the king's command and decree arrived, there was great mourning among the Jews, with fasting, weeping, and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes. So Esther's maids and her eunuchs came and told her, and the queen was deeply distressed. Then she sent garments to clothe Mordecai and take away his sackcloth from him, but he would not accept them. Then Esther called Hathach, one of the king's eunuchs whom he had appointed to attend her, and she gave him a command concerning Mordecai, to learn what was the cause of this. So Hathach went out to Mordecai in the city square that was in front of the king's gate. And Mordecai told him all that had happened to him, and the sum of money that Haman had promised to pay into the king's treasuries to destroy the Jews. He also gave him a copy of the written decree that had gone out in the provinces, to show it to Esther and explain it to her, and to command her to go to the king to make supplication to him and to plead to him for her people. So Hathach returned and told Esther all that Mordecai had said. Then Esther spoke to Hathach and gave him a command for Mordecai. All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces know that any man or woman who goes into the king's inner court to the king, who has not been called, he has but one law. Put all to death except the one to whom the king holds out the golden scepter, that he may live. But I have not been called to go into the king these 30 days. So they told Mordecai Esther's words, and Mordecai told them to answer Esther, "Do not think that because you are in the king's house you alone of all the Jews will escape." Then Esther told them to reply to Mordecai, "Go, gather all the Jews who are present in Shushan, and fast for me. Neither eat nor drink for 3 days, night or day. My maids and I will fast likewise. And so I will go to the king, which is against the law, and if I perish, I perish." So Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther had commanded him. Esther chapter 5, verses 1 to 14. On the third day Esther put on her royal robes, and stood in the inner court of the king's palace, opposite the king's house, while the king sat on his royal throne in the royal house, facing the entrance of the palace. So it was, when the king saw Queen Esther standing in the court, she found favor in his sight. And the king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand. Then Esther went near and touched the top of the scepter. And the king said to her, "What do you wish, Queen Esther? What is your request?" "Even to half of the kingdom it shall be given to you." And Esther said, "If I have found favor in your sight, O king, and if it pleases the king, let the king and Haman come today to the banquet that I have prepared for him." Then the king said, "Bring Haman quickly, so that we may do as Esther has said." So the king and Haman came to the banquet that Esther had prepared. At the banquet of wine the king said to Esther, "What is your petition? And it shall be granted you. What is your request? Even to half of the kingdom it shall be given to you." Then Esther answered and said, "My petition and my request is." So Haman went out that day joyful and with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, and that he neither rose nor trembled at his presence, he was filled with indignation against Mordecai. Nevertheless Haman restrained himself and went home, and he sent and called for his friends and his wife Zeresh. Then Haman told them of his great riches, the multitude of his children, everything in which the king had promoted him, and how he had advanced him above the officials and servants of the king. Moreover Haman said, "Yes, Esther the queen let no one but me come in with the king to the banquet that she prepared, and tomorrow also I am invited by her together with the king. Yet all this avails me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate." Then his wife Zeresh and all his friends said to him, "Let a gallows 50 cubits high be made, and in the morning suggest to the king that Mordecai be hanged on it. Then go merrily with the king to the banquet." And the thing pleased Haman, so he had the gallows made.